Yes, I'm finally doing it. The vegan king cake. It's the cinnamon bun that wants to be a cake all dressed up for Mardi Gras. They don't call it Fat Tuesday for nothing, so give me a big old honking piece of that. This is how we sold it in my bakery. And smearing the sugar on by hand, the way I'm doing it, is also the way we would be able to ice hundreds of these at a time. Oh my God, how dare you use your hands? You're disgusting. It's filled with cinnamon and cheese filling. Let me tell you, these cakes are fit for a king. So let's get going right away. I have my all-purpose flour in a large mixing bowl, and I'm going to be mixing this whole entire recipe by hand. I've got some plant milk that's about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to add my dry yeast to that with a pinch of sugar. So give it a good whisk and let that stand for a couple of minutes to get frothy. I'm adding my spices to the flour, which is cardamom, nutmeg, and cinnamon with a spot of salt. And then the rest of the sugar goes in. Now just whisk that all together to distribute it evenly and then add in that frothy milk yeast mixture. So the reason I have a second portion of plant milk is because sometimes I would add aquafaba as the egg replacer, but I do get lots of questions about that and lots of people don't seem to want to use aquafaba, so you could just as easily replace it with more milk in a recipe like this one. So again, I'm not using my electric mixer because I wanted to show you how easy it is to mix this one up by hand. It's quite messy, but it is easy. And this dough starts out really sticky, which is why it tastes so good actually. But once it comes together to this shaggy looking dough, I'm going to turn it out onto my table and then just start mashing it all together. Obviously, a stand mixer with a dough hook is a great option if you have one of those, but I also get lots of questions about mixing recipes by hand for those who don't have stand mixers. So I'm probably kneading it for like about 4 to 5 minutes and adding just a tablespoon of flour to help it come together. And then I'll start adding in my softened vegan butter just a little bit at a time. And you can see that it's turning into quite the mess, but just keep kneading it. And I'm using my dough scraper to kind of help that along. And I am adding a tablespoon at a time more flour to help it all come together. And eventually you will get to a really soft, beautiful dough. And this took about 8 minutes in total, with probably about 1/4 cup additional flour added during the whole process. Now get that into a lightly oiled bowl to rest and rise for about an hour, maybe more, depending on the temperature in your room. And in the meantime, we can make the cheese filling, and it's simply vegan cream cheese. I've got some soft vegan butter in here with confectioner sugar and cornstarch, and I'm mixing it all together to a smooth consistency. And as you see, I'm also doing this part by hand, which is preferable even if you do have an electric mixer, because vegan cream cheese does not like to cooperate. So you have to be really gentle, and mixing it by hand is just the best way to do that. Now, you don't have to add this cheese part to your king cake. If you prefer, just leave it as a cinnamon filling. They make king cakes all different sorts of ways, so you can totally customize this one to your liking. All right, so after about an hour and a half it took, because it's quite cold here in Florida today, it just took a little bit longer to proof. Now, you'll see lots of people on social media punching their dough for a cool effect, but I like to be gentle and stretch it slightly to strengthen the gluten formation rather than beat it up for wow factor. So just grab a little bit of that dough and pull up on it so it stretches itself gently. Now get it onto a lightly floured table, and you're going to roll it just like you would for cinnamon buns. And that's about 12 inches by 18 inches in rectangle. And that's the same size as a half sheet pan, really. So go ahead and spread all of that cheese filling evenly over the whole dough. And like I said, if you're skipping the cheese filling part, you would want to instead brush a little bit of melted vegan butter all over the dough like a cinnamon bun, and then just sprinkle the cinnamon sugar over that. All right, roll it up jelly roll style, and then be sure to pinch the seam so that it doesn't open up while it's baking. And you'll notice that I didn't hide the king inside, and this is completely your option. If you're having a true king cake party, then you're going to want to tuck him inside as you roll up. Then form it into a circle and pinch the ends together. and onto a parchment-lined sheet pan so that it can rise again. Just about another hour, and as you can see, it's really getting fluffy and puffy now. My oven is preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm just going to do some snippets on top of the dough for like some steam vents, and then a simple water wash, and into the oven it goes. And this bakes for about 35 minutes. Check out this gigantic, beautiful king cake. All we have to do now is let it cool and then add the colored sugar. Now, some people will use a confectioner's sugar white glaze for the base and then sprinkle colored sugar on top of that. But instead of adding a double dose of sugar here, I've colored my glaze purple, green, and gold. And this is how we sold it in my bakery. And smearing the sugar on by hand, the way I'm doing it, is also the way we would be able to ice hundreds of these at a time. Oh my God, how dare you use your hands, you're disgusting. Well, there you go, big gigantic cinnamon cheese king cakes. So grab your friends and have a great time sharing this one. Oh, don't forget, the recipe is on my website at gretchensveganbakery.com. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy vegan baking. Bye for now.